So this was one of the biggest epiphanies. Like, the restorative wasn't a surprise to me when I learned, but the responsibility coming out of a period of burnout really explained how I had to set my boundaries going into a new position. And I learned to ask the question, is this mine? Am I supposed to own it? If you give it to me, I'm going to do what I need to. But if it's not mine, I'm not going to take it.
Hello, welcome back to Coach. Today we are talking about restorative. Dr. Erin Wheeler is joining us today. Erin, can you tell our listeners where you're coming in from, your top 5 strengths, a little bit about what you're doing?
Yeah, so I am calling in from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I am a leadership coach. My experience and background lies in higher education, but also in nonprofit work as well. And my top 5 restorative for this conversation. And number 2 is relator, arranger, responsibility, and intellection.
Thank you so much. And Svetlana, Sereda coming in today. Thank you for joining us. Can you tell the listeners your top 5, where you're calling in from today, and what you do?
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having us here, Brandon. I'm excited about this conversation. I am calling in from Massachusetts, actually just outside of Boston. My top 5 are connectedness, intellection, responsibility, restorative, and relator. And I am a career coach for introverts.
Thank you. And so this is a fun episode for me. Restorative is my number 34 of 34. So sometimes I get to join in the conversation as one who shares the strength in my top 10. And other times I get to be more facilitator because I don't share this one at all. And so, fun story, my oldest daughter leads with this strength, but for many years, my wife and I often felt like oil and water with her. We just really didn't know what we had done wrong in her teenage years. We just felt so distant from each other. And until Clifton Strengths, when we learned that both my wife and I have this strength at 34, and our daughter had it at number 1. So come to learn, there's nothing wrong with any of us. We're just so different in the way we see the world and how we approach challenges and situations. And so I had to become a student of this strength. In fact, it was rapid study. She was 16 at the time. I had a couple more years with her under my roof as a dependent, and definitely made the most of learning. So it'll be fun to explore with both of you today, your experience with this particular strength and how you see the connection with each other's top 5. So Dr. Wheeler, I'll come to you first. And we may go Erin, Dr. Wheeler, so she'll probably have 4 names by the time this is done. But Dr. Wheeler, so tell us about the strength of restorative. So it's your number 1. And I'm sure you've had occasion to learn about it, grow with it. What do you see as the strength of this strength from your experience?
Yeah, so when I first did my Clifton Strengths, it was the one that I was the least surprised because I am a science background. My undergrad's in biology, master's in biology, and I decided to take the STEM education route to figure out what was the problem with a lot of students who couldn't complete STEM degrees. So that was my why. And but when you talk about your daughter, I'm laughing because even thinking back as a kid, I thought it was just my science brain. I remember bath time with my dad. I was 4, 5, and why does the air blow, and why does this and why does that? And he's like, can you let me answer the first question, Erin? And that that actually followed me all the way till last weekend. I went to a conference with my pastors. They were just talking, and there's like, do you let people answer the questions, or does I say my mind just keeps wanting to ask why and why and why. And so my restorative has been I feel like the strongest point the strongest piece of me doing the work that I do and uncovering and improving student success, not just in STEM, but higher education in general, to get to the root of the issues and not just put band-aids on them. And so once I learned that, I took that language into my interviews. I took it into a lot of places to help really explain why I do the work that I do and what do I bring to the table.
Thank you. Svetlana, how about you? Having it show up in your top 5 at number 4.
I'll share a story, but before that, I wanted to say I'm so happy to hear how you, Erin, described this, going all the way down to the root of the problem. I hear a lot of intellection here as well, because I share that combo with you, right? Restorative plus intellection. Yes, we love going all the way down to the root of the problem. One story I want to share is from my professional experience. I am a career coach, but back in the day when I was just a coach in training, I think it was 2011, for some reason, coaching industry didn't like the word problem. The whole vibe was like clients who come to us, they are already in a very good place, they are already very successful, and they just want to go further and higher. No one wants to talk about the problems. So we were encouraged to reframe problems as goals. We were encouraged to call our clients champions, which is great for someone with Maximizer. For clients and coaches with Maximizer, it might be a great language. And I remember sitting there in my training and thinking, what's wrong with having problems? Everyone has them, right? I love it when clients come to me and they bring their problems to me. I love going all the way down to the root of the problem, exploring, discovering, brainstorming out of the box ideas. This is not the only thing I do in my coaching, but that's an important thing, important part of my coaching.
Very good. So as you both take a look at your top 5 strengths and you connected the restorative with intellection, I have found many people with high restorative, half high intellection. I don't know that that's the most common pairing for restorative, but it sure seems that when you find one, you find the other a fair amount. And so perhaps you both can talk a little about that, because is that the wingman that helps give the time to solve the problem? I identify the problem, but now I have this strength that allows me to really dive deep, create the critical awareness and be able to see the root cause, get down to what is it that can help this not be a problem for future, which is what I admire so much about this strength, is your boldness and courage to go after problems, not just for the surface of it, but really to get to the root of it. How do we fix it? How do we really solve for it? So let's just start on that combo, since you both share it, how you both see that intellection and restorative. Svetlana, I'll come back to you on that.
Yeah, I thought about this there before our conversation, because this is the one that probably I use the most, this pairing restorative with intellection. They work very well together. My restorative, I must say, I lead with executing domain. And while I have activator very, very low, probably number 28, my restorative sometimes acts as activator. This energy, we have a problem. We need to fix it. We need to fix it fast. Let's go. And my intellection always reminds me, and I have deliberative, by the way. So deliberative also works as, whoa, not so fast. Let's slow down. Let's explore. Let's ask a bunch of good questions. So when I finally come to a solution, it's more pronounced, more explored, more thought through. On the other hand, I know, and Dr. Erin, I will be interested what's your experience on that. My intellection loves research, just for fun of research. So if left on to its own devices, intellection can just go down this rabbit hole of exploration and thinking. So restorative acts as it brings us back on track, like we are solving a problem here. We are not just exploring for fun. So I love this combo.
Yeah, so Svetlana, when you said you do career coaching for introverts, I'm a definite introvert, and I think this pairs with the intellection because I need some time to myself, to number one research, but also just to have my mind go from end to end and put it together and think about all the pieces so I could be able to communicate the solutions well. But also, like you said, the intellection kind of endures the activator piece. I I had a leadership position after about four other people, and about a year in, they're like, Dr. Wheeler, you're the first person to come and ask us what was going wrong, the people who had been there prior to me. And so just me asking questions, especially to the people who were there who had that institutional knowledge, helped me to dig deeper into the problem, but it also helped me to make people feel valued for their social capital, knowledge capital, their historic knowledge, and just their insight. You've been here before me, so tell me so I could help you solve this problem. It's teamwork. And so but even in that high stress job, I had to structure it in a way to say, hey, boss, supervisor, I need some time, maybe some out of office time or some time where my phone may, be on mute and my email may be um I'm not close to my email to like, can I need some time? And I literally told the president that I was like, you're gonna have to give me some time. Um, you're gonna have to give me at least 6 months before I present a strategic plan to you because I need time to sit, to ask, to learn, which is my number 10 as well. So they all work. I feel like that all works together for me. And so yeah, I think that intellection restorative, I feel like it has to be a pair, but maybe not. And for some people, they don't have that pair in their top five.
So looking at each other's strengths and noticing some of the differences and similarities, I do want to ask you both about responsibility because it is another strength that I've seen show up with restorative. I have my closest colleague that I work with almost every day. Her name happens to be Erin as well. She has intellection, restorative responsibility, and I rely tremendously on her and those strengths for what they bring, what they contribute. Sometimes I find myself needing to be more aware of the needs of those strengths because all three of those are not in my top 10. But I find that they're extremely reliable, very thoughtful. And again, there's an ability to maintain composure even in the midst of what others might become unsettled by. Those strengths seem to have an ability to lock in. Now, I also have noticed that they can overload themselves, though, because that responsibility has that part to it that because the restorative is, I liken it to the phrase "hold my beer." Like, hold my beer. I got this problem. Like, I'll take care of this. Let me, like, everybody stand back. I got it. And when the two come together, you really do. Like, you really do. You really will think through the solutions. You really will own it till it's, its end. You're not going to drop it till it's done. So for the two of you, how does that work? How does that responsibility restorative really give you, an edge, an advantage, but also speak to the other side of it, where you have to watch out for where the toll it might take on you personally? And I'll come back to you, Dr. Wheeler, for that one. What if the people you coach could navigate their total health and performance with the same ease as using Google Maps? Our friends at Wellbeing at Work help organizations turn fragmented programs and frustrated employees into thriving, high-performing teams. Wellbeing at Work acts as a GPS to enable total health and peak performance, pinpointing where your people are now, where they want to go, and the best path to get there. With Wellbeing at Work, coaches become credentialed navigators with personalized insights, proven tools, and human-centered support. If you're a coach committed to performance and care, Wellbeing at Work is your path forward. Navigating at scale from burnout to breakthrough is now possible. Visit podcast.34strong.com to find a better way forward to empower a healthier, more energized workforce. Again, that's podcast.34strong.com, Wellbeing at Work.
So this was one of the biggest epiphanies. Like the restorative wasn't a surprise to me when I learned, but the responsibility coming out of a period of burnout really explained how I had to set my boundaries going into a new position. And I learned to ask the question, is this mine? Am I supposed to own it? Like that's if you give it to me, I'm going to do what I need to, but if it's not mine, I'm not going to take it. And so, um, definitely the sharper edge to the responsibility is a big lesson I had to learn. And one of the biggest, like I said, biggest insights from understanding my strengths. But I think the responsibility restorative piece is if I find this problem, I bring it to you. I feel like I own it. But sometimes that's not necessarily the case. Sometimes you can just use it to put the problem on the table and see what everybody else is going to bring to help you solve it. And so learning how to, I see it as a ball toss, kind of a back and forth. Sometimes you don't have to keep the ball, dribble it, dunk it. It's not, you don't have to do the whole thing. Sometimes it's just to uncover the problem, bring it to leadership, bring it to the people who need to solve it. What do you think, Svetlana?
Actually, I'm surprised by how similar our experience is with responsibility because every word I agree, even though my position is different. And we are not talking about responsibility today, right? Because I have a whole bunch of stories about responsibility alone. When I first discovered responsibility, I wasn't surprised that I have this in my top 5. I couldn't understand how it's a strength because I thought it's a curse. But then I've come to realize that actually, on many jobs, I was literally paid for my responsibility talent, even though it wasn't on the books, it wasn't in my job title. But this is one of my biggest values: being reliable, being a person people can rely on. And I've come to appreciate this part of me. I've come to understand that actually this is part of my charisma. I don't have a woo. So how can I attract people? Uh, by being reliable. Uh, but being the person who says, if she says she does something, she will do this. Uh, with restorative, the downside might be that restorative by itself sees the problems everywhere, right? It might see the problems that exist, but no one sees them yet. But when in this combo, restorative and responsibility, if I see a problem, I automatically assume that that's my problem. I'm the one who needs to solve it. And I think the arc of maturity for my responsibility in restorative is to learn that not all problems are mine to solve. And sometimes it's not an easy realization. And I have a story um, about parenting. Uh, it might not be necessarily connected with responsibility, but it's definitely about restorative. Uh, My son is a young adult now, so I'm not in that active parenting phase anymore. But when he was younger, whenever he was in trouble, whenever he struggled with something, my instinctual urge was to jump to the rescue immediately. And when I managed to hold myself back, and my husband, who doesn't have restorative in his top 10, he did a very good job of reminding me about this again and again. So when I managed to hold myself back, every time I was just blown away by how creative, how resourceful my son was. And 5 years ago, he took Clifton Strengths, and guess what? He has restorative in his top 5, so it all makes sense.
I think that's what we found with our daughter when we discovered that was her number one. When we moved past some of what I think was her challenge as a young person with restorative, is she didn't know how to take the problem-solving orientation and not overly apply it to herself. So because she could see things that were wrong and want to fix them, she kept mirroring it. She kept seeing it as hers. As she began to understand that and develop this keen awareness of, okay, I'm probably going to be hardest on me than anyone ever could be. And so what emerged, what you're describing, is she became amazing at helping others solve, from our family context to the business she leads now to her own family now, and just watching her flourish in it. But she did have to get past that part of what I've seen people with restorative. And I'm curious if you could both speak to that, because this particular strength does it does seem to start here as a mirror, and as it learns to go out, that part of being able to separate, yes, I can acknowledge when I'm not right. Like I there's a humility to it. Actually, I can see when I've done what I didn't want to do or would have preferred better. But as it goes, is that something you both have related to as you learned this strength, grown, developed it? Maybe Svetlana, even with your son, have you seen that aspect of it come through? And I'll come to you, Dr. Wheeler, first on that.
So in listening to both stories about that, what came across my mind is not necessarily, of course, the having to realize when I'm right, but I think for me is taking those problem solving and say, okay, Erin, what's wrong? How can we strategize? And so I am harder on myself, and I have to be intentional about saying, okay, what are the things that are going right? What are the things you're grateful for? What are the things that are like what are the good things and what's working, instead of magnifying the problem? And so I've realized that I have to do that work. I have to be very intentional with myself and turning that strength back onto me.
I absolutely agree with both of you. And I was listening to an episode, I don't remember what it was on exactly, which strength, but you, Brandon, and the panelists discussed maximizer. They both had maximizer, and they described how maximizer is a perfectionistic talent. And for me, even though maximizer and restorative are different, restorative is very perfectionistic for me because it always focuses on what is wrong and how we can fix it. Uh, and I think this, again, coming back to the idea of maturity arc, I've come to realize that I remember many years ago, it wasn't even a coaching session. It was just a fleeting conversation, an informational interview with a coach. And she said, you know that with restorative, you will always be somewhat dissatisfied because it's just in the nature of restorative to always see what can be better. And it clicked inside me that, yeah, I feel there's this dissatisfaction. I feel like something can be better, but it doesn't mean that it's wrong. It's already awesome and it can be better. And connectedness helps very much here. It softens my restorative. I have a personal story. You know that English, you can hear that English is not my first language. And my restorative absolutely sees that as a problem. It relentlessly looks for ways how we can improve. New tutors, new courses, new ways to learn vocabulary. And I'm not complaining. I love all of this and I will be doing this probably till the end of my life, but it's tiresome. And my connectedness always comes to the rescue. It reminds me that I might never be able to speak English at the level I want to, and that's okay. And I also have belief number 6. So whenever it matters, whenever it's connected to my values, I can find the courage to speak imperfectly. But restorative is here. I'm happy.
Erin, can you relate to that in terms of how connectedness might soften that blow?
Yeah, I was thinking in reflecting of how as a leader I had to like that. I think the connectedness being number 6, but also the relator to that personal touch helps soften the blow of this is what's wrong with our team. This is what's wrong with our program. This is what's wrong with this. But having to balance that, at the end of a semester or year and say, let's put, let's create a wall of all the good things that happened first before we go into, um, the whole diagnostic of it all, figuring out. And so I think just having those two kind of human elements to it, I think that does help to balance the very, I think, bluntness that restorative can offer. That harsh critique of it, of restorative.
Mm. I appreciate both of you for calling that out from the context that restorative is blunt. It is direct. Every person I know with restorative, it's sometimes it's not gentle. I mean, they're going to tell you what they think, and they're pretty straightforward. And it is a blunt force object. It's it's a this isn't right. Woo, okay, got it. Check. We'll look into that. So, in both of you commenting on how you can learn to bring some finesse and bring some understanding, into other restorators, because this is a really common strength. I believe it's now a top 10 most frequent. I think many people will show up with this strength. What can you tell our listeners who share this strength with you about how to get the best version of it, where it's at its most received and valued and appreciated? Perhaps let's start in the context of a team, and then maybe we'll expand out to even how we coach it. And either one of you can jump into those questions when you're ready.
I think again for me to understand where people are in terms of feedback, in terms of process, and meet them where they are, and have a little bit of empathy of because once you're especially on the job or anything like that's supervisors or leaders sometimes don't realize how personal people's roles are. So once you give them feedback and you talk about a problem, they they take that on as an attack on their identity, their personality. So you do have to have that sense of again humanity. And so for me, understanding brain science and how people think and what they're motivated on, that helps me to couch sometimes like to spin the bad news and say, hey, it's not so bad. We have some solutions. And I'm looking at my team and each one of you have the solution to this problem in your own way. And as long as we are working together to solve these problems or this one problem, we're good. And so I think that has helped me to not because I've seen leaders who just say this is a problem, get rid of this, to get rid of this, and get rid of them, and cancel this and cancel that because they only see the problem. They don't really understand the context and the fine dance you have to do because you're working with living, breathing, feeling human beings.
Coaches and service-based business builders want to 10x your impact and income? Join the Strengthspreneur Mastermind, led by Brent O'Bannon, MCC, author of the Strengthspreneur 10x Workbook, and the world's first Gallup-certified strengths coach. This powerhouse group gives you personalized coaching, peer support, and proven tools to launch and scale your unique strengths. We meet 2 times a month. Come sharpen your strategy, boost confidence, and grow smarter, not harder. Visit podcast.34strong.com to thrive as a strengthspreneur. Again, visit podcast.34strong.com. Join Brent O'Bannon and thrive as a strengthspreneur.
Agree, absolutely. I appreciate that you brought up this human part, because restorative by itself, by default, it's not very people-oriented. It sees problems, not people. And I have to remind myself, connection before a solution. It's like my motto. And if I could give just one advice to every connection, to every restorative person in the world, that would be it. Connection before a solution. Because time, as I mentioned already, my restorative is very quick. It jumps to fixing things immediately. But time and time again, I see that if we don't rush to finding a solution, if we allow people to just share their feelings, to feel heard, to feel understood, even though for my restorative, it's a very uncomfortable place. But if we do this, finding a solution becomes so much easier. And sometimes we don't even need a solution, because that was the problem, the lack of communication.
I love that, Svetlana. It's the like you said, the connectedness, and even just finding that communication piece, I think is super important in how you relay the problem.
As you both look at this strength from a coaching standpoint, so when you're coaching someone who has high restorative and they're just learning about it, just coming into knowledge of this, they're new to Clifton Strengths, what are some ways that you help them bring out the best of this, and perhaps you're seeing some common pairings, but even just when you're going to coach it standalone, what are some ways you found to really help support them in developing this one?
For me, I have a lot of clients that are burned out in different fields, but most likely higher education, social impact, and they're trying to solve big world problems, right? And bring them home at night, and it's usually tied to their purpose. And so for me, I get them to go through exercises where we narrow down their values, their purpose, their mission, their vision, so they can refine which problems that they want to own, regardless if responsibility is in that. But which problems are you focused on? You you can't like you. It's not necessarily impossible, but we have limited energy. And so you want to focus your energy on one problem where you can go deeper instead of trying to solve everybody's problem at one time. And usually, again, it's social impact, is higher education. Those funds are limited. So we have to do more with less. And just helping them to like put a little bit of tunnel vision on, to get them focused on what is the thing that you're good at solving, even though you may not have found the big answer yet, but you've had success, you've had impact, and focus on that. And even take it to their personal life and figure out if you're mom, dad, sister, brother, caretaker, community leader outside of the job. How do you hone in on the one thing that you're good at solving to help you, one, have that maximum impact, but also conserve your energy for where it's needed most?
I absolutely agree with that. And to piggyback on that idea, I also want to add a concept of circles of control. Or I find out very often, and I know it's true for myself, if I'm trying to solve a problem and I feel burnt out, that's probably I'm trying to solve a problem that is outside of my control. So I need to either reframe this problem, like in this big problem, what can I do? What is in my control? Or maybe, and this is my connectedness speaking, maybe accept that it's not your problem to solve. If everything is outside of your control, it calls for acceptance and not for a solution.
That
I
is
love that
excellent advice.
control. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No. I'm echoing that. That is, I love that
We're
circles of
we're both over
control.
here like, yes, yes, yes. Don't try to solve things not within your control, which, by the way, is a major maximizer problem right along with restorative. So I find that many people with high restorative have lower maximizer, high maximizer, lower restorative. Is that your experiences, or is maximizer more relevant for you too?
Ooh, maximizer is in my lower 10.
How about you, Svetlana?
My maximizer is probably 20 something, so not very low. But I know the topic of retaking the test it comes up a lot in different episodes. So I took Clifton Strings 3 times. And this is my responsibility, absolutely, because I was a coach already, and before offering this to my clients, I wanted to make sure that it works. So I wanted to take it several times and see if I will have repeating results. And I did. Almost everything was kind of almost the same. But in my first take, I saw Maximizer in my, I think, top 10. And I don't agree with that. Restorative is closer to home.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I've seen the occasion with maximizer almost always is a polar to restorative. I mean, I think almost every profile. I have seen very few exceptions. I've seen probably the one unicorn with maximizer restorative both in the top 5, but I've only seen that once in a lot of reports. But they seem to get to similar places different ways. They arrive at similar places. They have similar challenge. I call them cousins because they do have a symbiotic relationship where one can serve the other very well. They can really support each other in how they seek to solve situations. So thank you for that piece. Anything that we may have left off the table that you want to offer to our listeners before we hear a little bit more about what you both are up to?
One thing I wanted to mention, like what and restorative is very practical and I love it for that. But what I love the most with restorative and deliberative in my top 10, I'm not a very optimistic person. Positivity is number 30 something for me. So connectedness is my positivity, that's for sure. But also restorative brings this energy of, I love Marie Forleo's motto, everything is figure outable, right? So every problem has a solution. It might not be the one you were hoping for. It might not be the one you like, but every solution, even imperfect one, brings us closer to where we want to be or closer to clarity. So I love this um, positive spin on restorative. But
Yeah.
we've got it. We'll we'll solve this problem.
I think for me, the last kind of piece I'll leave is you can solve. Even though that restorative you said is one of the most common, I think it's really important to show people what's your process using all the rest of your strengths to describe what is your process, especially going into careers and interviews and setting yourself apart where you need to talk about how you solve problems. Talk about the rest of your the rest of your strengths in aiding you solve that problem, I think is a really important piece to really set you apart, but even just giving you language of to describe how you do something.
Ooh, as a career coach, I absolutely love this. So restorative tells us this person knows how to solve problems. The rest of their strengths describe what problems they love to solve, how exactly they will solve the problems. So yeah, I love it. I love Clifton's strengths.
That's great. Thank you. Svetlana, since I'm going to stay with you, would you tell our listeners where they can find you, what you're doing, who you're looking for, since you mentioned the career coaching? I'd love for them to know how they might reach out to you, given we have so many that are in that space right now that are either transitioning into the career world or transitioning to another career. Love to hear that from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for this opportunity. As I mentioned, I am a career coach for introverts. I help fellow introverts navigate career transitions and make a difference in the world while staying true to themselves. And people can find me on my website, driveandclarity.com. And I have also a one-pager for my favorite project, career coaching program for introverts, quietadventure.net. And LinkedIn is a good place to connect. You can find me on LinkedIn as Svetlana Sereda. And I'll be happy to connect with fellow Clifton strength coaches and all the people who talk the language of strengths.
Thank you. Dr. Wheeler?
Yeah, so you can find me. My website is gracefullyproductive.com. I work with leaders, and particularly social impact leaders, solopreneurs, the people who want to do big things but are starting off with less resources. So I love to work with nonprofit leaders, solopreneurs, new founders, and I have a new coaching program called Founders Flow, which pulls all of our social and intellectual capital together so we can accomplish and also become focus on our well-being as we're navigating these projects, usually with a leaner team. And of course, LinkedIn, you can find me at Erin Wheeler, PhD on LinkedIn.
Thank you both. And listeners, if today you receive some valuable insights about the strength of restorative, we encourage you to share this episode with someone who will also find it valuable. And to both of you, thank you, Dr. Wheeler. Thank you, Svetlana, for joining us today. And as always, we look forward to seeing you again on Coach to Coach. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Dr. Wheeler. It was a very insightful conversation.
That's a wrap on this episode of Coach to Coach. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're a strengths coach looking to dive deeper, join the Coach Strong community. It's where coaches like you come together to share insights, support one another, and discover partnership opportunities. Be part of the conversations that are elevating our industry. Email community@34strong.com to join today. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week on Coach to Coach. Stay strong.